our big focus is on Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is in India on a two-day state visit. He was welcomed last night at the airport by Prime Minister Modi, a rare gesture reflecting the warmth in bilateral ties, a break in protocol. The two leaders shared a handshake, a warm hug, and even rode together before a 3-hour-long private dinner which the Prime Minister hosted at his residence. Modi also gifted Putin a Russian edition of the Bhagavad Gita, underscoring shared cultural respects. Today, the focus turns to diplomacy, to economic engagement. Putin will receive a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. That's going to happen in under an hour. He will then pay his respects at the Rajghat, and then he will meet Prime Minister Modi at the Hyderabad House for the delegation-level talks and to co-chair the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. The agenda also includes meetings with India's top corporate honchos. There's going to be a CEO's roundtable and a Russia-India business forum that both leaders will co-chair in the afternoon. And that, of course, is a signal to push and strengthen trade and investment as well as strategic cooperation between Moscow and Delhi. With both sides looking to reset and deepen ties, today's discussions will set the stage for a series of deals, whether it's on energy, defense, technology, future-oriented dimension of this high-profile visit. You can expect 10 intergovernmental deals to be announced and signed when both leaders meet later today. So far, one of the big pillars of this relationship has been on defense, whether it is on tanks, whether it's on missile defense systems, fighter jets. One of the deals that's being talked about, the Russians clearly seem to be pushing this quite a bit, is the fifth-generation fighter jet, the Sukhoi 57. In fact, the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, confirmed that this is very much on the agenda in the press conference that he held a couple of days ago. There are currently two big fifth-generation fighter jets that are in the market, and both are vying for big orders from India. One is the F-35, the Lockheed Martin American-made F-35, and the Sukhoi 57, which is a Russian fifth-generation fighter. While the Americans want India to buy the F-35, Trump has made no bones about it. The Russian offer raises the stakes. So how do these two fifth-generation fighters stack up against each other? The F-35 is a single-engine fifth-generation fighter jet. It's produced by Lockheed Martin. The Sukhoi, on the other hand, is produced by Russia with United Aircraft Corporation. The Sukhoi 57 showcased in the Bangalore Air Show earlier this year. It's a twin-engine fifth-generation fighter. It brings 3D thrust vectoring to the table, which is an option that's missing on the F-35. The American F-35 tops out at Mach 1.6, which is 1.6 times the speed of sound. It carries a ferry range of over 1,600 kilometers. The Sukhoi can go up to 2 times the speed of sound, Mach 2, and it offers a 3,500 kilometer ferry range. The combat radius of the F-35 is shorter compared to the Sukhoi 57. It offers a combat range of 1,900 kilometers. The price tag, and this is where there is a critical difference, the F-35 is over $100 million per unit. The Sukhoi 57, on the other hand, is between $35 and $45 million, and that could, of course, make a significant difference eventually in which of these two jets India chooses. The F-35 has been operational for the last 10 years. The Sukhoi 57 entered the market 5 years later in 2020. So far, Lockheed Martin has built over 100 units of the F-35, whereas the Sukhoi 57, just about 30-odd units. Before we go to our reporters, I want to get a quick take from the expert here in our studios, General Pandey. Ultimately, India's got to choose. It's going to be a big order. Which of these two you think is in the reckoning, or at least has its nose ahead?
Yeah, so I think we just started by saying India loves America but trusts Russia. I think look at the deals we signed with them, the delays which have happened on a simple platform, which is a very, very old platform called Apaches. The deliveries got delayed by years. Your engines, which are required to be pushing our Tejas program, has been delayed because we aren't getting the G engines. And also where Americans actually, there's a lot of perception, by the way, in India that the bureaucratic system in US is pretty fast. But I can assure you it is quite episodic, laggard. And it also shifts with the relationship where they want to, bind India into some sort of a pushback that either you are with us, so we'll allow the next step of release of defense equipment which has been sold to you, by the way. So, even the promises don't get fulfilled.
But General, the Russians are also not exactly delivering on time. Okay. I mean, they're still talking about the Akula-class nuclear submarine, which I think they signed that deal in 2018, 19. I mean, it's been
correct. But
over
you
5
please
years.
Look at it, they're saying that Americans are not tied up with a war, with Russians are.
Of course.
There's the issue of COVID which happened in between. I'm not a supporter of a Russian bloc or a American bloc, but I'm just putting the perspective right in place. That is one part. The second is when you look at the two platforms. I am not a pilot, but very clearly Sukhoi 57 takes an edge with for F-35. If you see the, I think in last about 6 months, 3 to 4 crashes of F-35 have happened. Well, people are talking about Tejas in a show when when it crashed the way it did, but nobody's talking about the F-35 crashes which has taken place. There is an issue of this thing, as Su-57 is far more advanced, faster, quicker, more agile platform, twin engine which gives a backup, and of course cost factor. In 100 million for one F-35 you will get 3 off. But more important, I guess, is for India, which is looking for technological upgrade of a defense ecosystem in Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think Sukhoi 57 offers, because they intend, after selling us the first 30, if I'm not wrong, the balance are likely to be made in India. That actually shifts. You look at the BrahMos system, the old joint development program allowed India to emerge out of those restrictions which were being placed, and today we are making it in India and we are selling it to the countries. This allows a different paradigm shift in the defense ecosystem for us.
So I think I'll get a view from the American side. Lieutenant Daniel Davis is a senior fellow with Defense Priorities. He's also joining us. So General Pandey here saying that, look, there is a trust factor that seems to have been broken with the Americans, particularly this whole GE jet engine deal that was supposed to have happened. It was signed in 2023. We still haven't seen that technology transfer happen. And that is driving a wedge in as far as the trust is concerned. Whereas with Russia, even today, more than 50% of India's defense inventory comes from the Russian side, whether it's your missiles, your missile defense systems, and now, of course, the fighter jets. How does America counter that?
Well, America's going to have to change some of their ways that we're doing business. That's the bottom line here. If we are going to earn India's trust, and, of course, President Trump right now is trying to and has been trying to put the screws on India to say, hey, stop buying Russian oil. And, we have this extra 25% tariff on top of them to trying to get them to come back. That was always going to be a losing play, because the cost to India to actually do what President Trump wanted would be more expensive than the tariffs are, in my view. And plus, that would also cause damage between India and Russia, which India has not wanted to do. And really, I think, and look, I'm just being honest about this, I think that the United States is obviously, between President Trump and President Biden, has been very different in how they've approached India. And President Trump can change his mind in a minute and ask something different and be really hard one day and all of a sudden really nice the next day and talking something different. So India's got to think, what is actually the play of the United States? What is their intent? What is their strategy toward India? And how are we going to work together? And I'm not sure that there's a clear answer on that from India's perspective, whereas Russia seems to, whether you like it or not, they seem to be pretty consistent with what they're offering. And as you point out, 50% of your military stuff does come from Russia, and Russia is obviously trying to court India as well. So India's kind of in a place where it wants to be, where it's not really taking a firm stand on either side. They don't want to, I don't believe. They want to do business with everybody, which I think is a pretty good way. I wish the United States would follow a little bit more of that, frankly. But I guess to answer your question, in order to really get India to move even in the direction of the United States, we're going to have to get more consistent and to do things, I think, that have more win-win opportunities and not just threaten India.
Okay, Lieutenant Davis, just hang on for a minute. I also want to go across to our reporters. Siddhant and Akanksha are joining us, so we can open this on our virtual wall. Siddhant is there at the Hyderabad House, where at noon the official delegation-level talks will begin, and the opening of the 23rd Annual India-Russia Summit. So Siddhant is there, and Akanksha is at the Bharat Mandapam, where later in the afternoon both the leaders will co-chair a CEO's roundtable and an India-Russia business forum. Siddhant, what can we expect in terms of the deals? The MEA has been talking about 10 government-to-government deals and about 15 commercial MOUs. What can we expect today?
Well, Zaka, the fact is that Russians have been pushing from a long time for S-500, Su-57. In fact, ahead of this meeting today at the Dubai Air Show, Russians openly offered offer to India for Su-57 with tech transfer, joint production, etc., etc. So, they have been pushing these products. In fact, yesterday there was intergovernmental military-to-military cooperation meeting which took place between Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and his Russian counterpart. Perhaps there also these proposals were made by the Russian side. And today also it is very likely that during the delegation level talks, Russians will again be bringing up these items for discussion. And India is very happy to listen to the Russian proposals. But it has to go through an evaluation process, which has still not started. Even S-500 units have not been tested yet. So India is happy to listen to the proposal, and in fact, India is happy to engage also as far as discussion on these proposals are concerned. In fact, Zaka, the same is the case with small and medium advanced reactors. In the month of February, at the time of the budget, India had announced the civil nuclear goals ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Washington. And in fact, there is a lot of speculation that there's going to be some announcement as far as nuclear cooperation is concerned. But if you remember, Zaka, last time around also when Prime Minister Modi visited Moscow, Russians were talking about signing of some agreements as far as nuclear cooperation is concerned. They want to develop small and medium advanced reactors in India. So they have been pushing this also from a long time. But there has not been any commitment given to the Russians so far as far as nuclear cooperation is concerned.
Okay.
So there are key players. US is there, France is there, Russia is there. As far as small, medium, advanced reactors are concerned. So India has to properly evaluate and look at the proposals by the companies in these countries, and perhaps then to decide. So mostly the focus is going to be on the bilateral issues, Zaka, as we have been discussing. Mobility agreement, trade deficit is a big concern. Fertilizers, India, Eurasia FTA, which is being negotiated. So that is also will be coming up for discussion, and also the perspective on regional and global issues.
Okay, so let me also go to Akanksha on the trade and economic front, and people have been talking about this. India has the second highest trade deficit with Russia. The only other country with which India has a higher trade deficit is with China. But with Russia, it's singularly because of one item which contributes more than 90% of India's imports from Russia, which is oil. So one of the attempts that they will try and make today, and I guess the pitch to the CEOs will also be around that, as to how to diversify Indian exports to Russia, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's textiles, leather, etc. Is that something that is on the anvil, and how do India and Russia address this whole trade deficit question?
So interestingly, Zaka, yes, we are at the Bharat Mandapam where the India-Russia Business Forum has happened today. The CEO roundtable is going to be happening. And much of the sectors where we are looking to diversify, as Commerce Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal already highlighted yesterday, have been enlisted by Siddhant as he was speaking right now, whether it is pharma, automobiles, energy, even you're looking at fertilizers, agricultural products, all of those aspects and those sectors will be looked at. But how do you do that? A critical point is now going to be, as I'm gauging from our conversations with the Russian delegation and FICCI members, is the rewiring of the money pipes. When I talk about it, you're talking about a direct settlement as far as ruble is concerned. This is one settlement format that goes all the way back to the 1950s. But ever since sanctions were hit on Russia, remember, it has been cut off from the Western financial banking system. And that fear had sort of started creeping into Indian investors who were looking towards investing in Russia. And so this year itself, in August 2025, the RBI eased that system for Russian investors and companies which had extra rupee. They were, in fact, eased to allow the Russian investors to look towards investing in Indian bonds, Indian infrastructure, structure other forms as well, if you look at settlements. Now, if you talk about RuPay, you talk about Mir and, of course, the rupee settlement. We are looking towards digitally sort of linking all of that. And how is this going to aid? This is going to aid tourism. Tourists will be able to use the RuPay card in Russia to make those payments over there. At the same time, students in Russia can use this entire settlement. As far as pharmaceuticals is concerned, medicine and money payments could be now used in this sector as well as making payments for the energy, crude say payments will also happen through this financial digital system that President Putin's state visit will now ensure finally gets linked at a time when Russia is feeling extremely isolated because of these sanctions slapped on their banking system.
There's also chatter about visa-free travel or visa-on-arrival travel for Indian tourists into Russia. We'll see if that happens, if that's one of the agreements that will be signed today. Thank you very much, Siddhant and Akanksha. We'll be in touch with you as and when there are further developments. But